And I said, can we meet Wallace and Gromit? And we never got to, because Wallace and Gromit hadn't been made yet. And they said, you're going to be disappointed. They're really small. So, but we'll have to go to England and meet them. They gave us a nice book of Wallace and Gromit. Okay, so I'm kind of coming to the end of the slides here. A lot of people ask, and you might ask, so I just had a couple slides on, I don't know, what Guy and I do in our spare time is we're very interested in exploration, but not just by space, but also the sea. So we went around the world in our sailboat from 2001 to 2003, and on sabbatical. Well, I have been since January, so we went back to our sailboat in 2012. But it was a great opportunity, again, mostly to teach about science, technology, engineering, and math. And it took us a year and a half to go around the world. We survived. It was over 36,000 nautical miles. We got to interact with, these were younger students, not university folks, but young kids, middle school age. And we went to visited 33 different island nations. And this is the Kuna Indian tribe, if you know Kuna Indians off of Panama. Wonderful, beautiful culture. That's Guy. You know, he's kind of pretty much a giant. These are all adults. These are adults, and see their little babies. So these are all grown adults. I was even a giant. Here we are in Vanuatu. I'm the lightest skinned person there. You know, and then this year, we lived on our boat from January to May to get work done, but also sailed down to Roatan, Honduras, where Guy's main project is in design. And so these are the beautiful islands we call home off of the Honduras coast. And so I think this is my last space slide. Actually, we think about it, this is a spaceship Earth. This is a tribute to Buckminster Fuller, wonderful kind of hero. I was a mentor and colleague of Guy's thesis, but you know, kind of always reminded us to reflect on Earth. We're living, how we think about it, on spaceship Earth. It's the only one we have. So it's incumbent upon all of us to be very reflective, think about it, take care of it. All of our designs for strange places and maybe other planets hopefully would help and benefit. There'd be uses for here on Earth as well. I don't know if you know Mini Earth. Bucky's idea was for the United Nations. All world leaders should sit in the United Nations, and there should be this globe outside. Of course, this is 1968, maybe 1958. But what a thought! I mean, what an inspirational thought! Because now we have the technology to do it. So when you're making all very important world decisions, and you look out and you see the Earth, you usually see a beautiful Earth. But guess what else you see? You see all the natural disasters. You see all the wars. You see climate. You see everything. We probably all make some different decisions if visually, you know, we're making really important world decisions. So that's kind of the philosophical end to my talk. I wanted to, in my last few minutes, I wanted to tell you why we're here today. It's fun to talk to you about research and kind of my passion. Again, giving credit to Julio. We have a project to come up with a roadmap to look at internationalization and engineering here in Chile towards innovation entrepreneurship. There's our team listed here, just a few high-level goals. Look at the internationalization of higher education systems. Identify what the key disciplinary and industrial areas would be for collaboration. You know, what are we call it the best practices? What works? What might work well for Chile? We don't know, but it's a really fun problem to think about, and we'll be studying it. And then the goal is to develop in this early phase work this year, to develop a roadmap to strengthen that ecosystem. And then I wanted to highlight a few results from a previous publication, Julio's work with this in technology and policy, to take a look at what are those best practices, as I mentioned. So his research methodology and objectives were to try to identify best practices. And it was 25 different companies. He looked at 25 different companies, interviews over 100 project managers of those companies. And the outcomes were, you know, for research, say from the university, from these relationships between universities and industry, you know, are there new ideas and methods? Do you have new solutions coming up? What about intellectual property? Those outcomes. What impact, meaning impacts in the industry, impacts in the business? The questions there were, well, has that new knowledge that you gained from the research collaboration, you know, has that knowledge influenced your business strategy at all? Is that technology being applied in your products? How long does it take? And what steps are they undergoing to protect their IP? So the problem really is this outcome input gap. That's the problem that was identified. Universities could be a major resource, kind of R&D for industry, but again, why isn't this working so well? So it seems obvious, but I'd like to walk through these slides because I think it's pretty insightful as well. So very promising outcomes, great research, you know, in all of our labs, wonderful research. What's happening here, it doesn't really necessarily lead to impact in the companies. Why? Here's project outcomes. Major outcomes are here in green, minor outcomes, and then none. So at the project outcome level, you know, here's the data. But then at the impact, how is that impacting? You see a very big difference. For the major outcomes, they're only having 25% reduction, and same for the minor impacts. So, and a lot more none. So the data this was published in a very nice journal article in our Sloan Management Review in 2010, and the bottom line was they came up with 7 best practices to enhance, if you will. 7 best practices. They're going to seem pretty intuitive and simple, but I'm sure all of us could use a refresher, and as we read through these, say, if we just would have done that, if we would have done this. So I'll walk through these, are my last couple slides. So the 7 best practices that were identified is to, when you're defining at the beginning, when you define the strategic context of the project, then you can read the bullets here. I won't read them all, but again, what do you have to do? Make sure at the company that the research portfolio, it makes sense. It's in your research portfolio, this collaboration opportunity. You know, maybe that's not the wild, crazy idea. Maybe that it's in line with your business strategy as well, to invest in that university research. Define the specific research outputs that you'd like right at the beginning, of course, because we don't do that a lot. Identify who the internal users, who in the company is going to use that output. And matter of fact, you need a champion. You need a champion at the company that's going to be a champion all the time for this, or else you won't get the benefit. 2 is then kind of called select the boundary spanning. What are the constraints to your project with your managers? Then take a look at that, what it spans. So you need a manager that has very in-depth knowledge of the technology needs, or you're going to have a mismatch. So put the right person basically in charge from the company. They have to be very inclined toward networking and cross-functional. Again, they have to be able to work across divisions, let's call it, very well, because they need help from other people. And they have to have an ability to make these connections between the research and what are my product applications. 3rd was to share with your university team. Again, this is from the industry. Share with your university collaborators your vision. Because again, if we don't know the vision from industry, we're going to have a mismatch right at the beginning. And specifically, that means get the researchers who are going to understand, get university researchers, who are going to understand your company practices and your technology goals and needs. Secondly, ensure that university team appreciates what the strategic context is, back up to number 1. So then finishing, invest in long-term relationships. That's not here just to get more money coming to the universities. It's really important. Many, many great research and outputs, they're just not sustainable if you don't have that longer-term relationship. And so multi-year is the recommendation, and the relationships. Establish the strong communications. Again, it seems very obvious, but how many of all of our projects go poorly because if we just would have had better communications between and among everyone, and we were too busy, and so we didn't maybe pay enough attention to the communication. So this one, it rings home with me. Face-to-face meetings. I know we're all online and asynchronous, but there's no substitute for some number, because you need the body language, you need the, you might be talking different languages to people, so it's really important this in communication.